Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a top 10 list here on the channel. We're going to be listing off the top 10 wrestlers that All Elite Wrestling should sign ahead of their TNT debut and ahead of the year 2020. Let's start things off with number 10. It's going to be Kenta. And for the background, I'm going to have a little WWE 2K19 playing. So let me explain, like I said, number 10 being Kenta. So kicking off this list, we have one of the more recent release superstars in WWE, Hideo Itami, who is better known, of course, as Kenta, who is, one of the best professional wrestlers in the world right now. I mean, there's not too many people that can say they wrestle as good as Kenta. And, he's lost some momentum due to the underwhelming creative booking in WWE, but he's due for another big run, and I feel like AEW could really utilize Kenta and, possibly make him a champion. So we're going to move on to number 9 now, and it is Will Ospreay. So one of my favorite wrestlers in the world right now, Will Ospreay. I feel like he really belongs in AEW. For a while I was like, well, he can go to WWE because Ricochet's there, it's okay. But now that AEW is a real thing, I think that is the best destination for Mr. Will Ospreay. He should definitely consider AEW. With Ricochet, like I said, being in WWE, he could definitely use AEW to shine as their main high flyer. Being able to compete with guys like Kip Sabian, MJF, Sammy Guevara, among others, would suit him just fine, especially if AEW were to add a junior heavyweight division. He would probably be the guy that they would want to be the face of. Speaking of the face of the division, that brings us to number 8. It's going to be Tessa Blanchard, the current Impact Knockouts champion. Now, Tessa Blanchard is probably one of the best women's wrestlers in the world right now. Let's put it like this: women's wrestling is essential in 2019. Tessa Blanchard is essential in 2019. She's one of the best, and she came close to signing with WWE, especially after the Mae Young Classic. She even made some NXT appearances, but I think she would fit beautifully into the AEW women's division, and she could even be the top star. She could be the hands down face of that division, the best woman on the roster. And hopefully AEW can work through something to get her on the show. Next up, Motor City Machine Guns. Now this one's kind of a shot in the dark considering they don't really tag as much anymore, and Alex Shelley kind of retired. Chris Sabin not always healthy and whatnot, but there was definitely a tribute in the Young Bucks Lucha Bros match at Double or Nothing. The Young Bucks did one of Motor City Machine Guns moves. They tweeted about it, and I feel like the Motor City Machine Guns should get one more run. Obviously it comes down to the health state, how are they doing, but that would be an amazing coup for AEW. Even if it's just a retirement match, one last run, a part-time gig, I think the Motor City Machine Guns could help get that tag team division off the ground. Now for number 6, you guys might call me a little crazy, but I'm gonna go with Ryback. It's just a name. I know a lot of you are like, no, don't let them be TNA, don't let them get all the WWE guys. But let me sell you on this real quick. In 2012, crowds of thousands were chanting "Feed me more." The momentum this man had was insane, and sadly it never led to much in WWE. But AEW wouldn't squander something like that. They would use Ryback to his strengths, give some diversity to the roster. He's pretty agile for his size and seems like he has a great mind for the business, and that's just on top of him already being a known name in wrestling. It would definitely help them once they get started on TNT. Speaking of known names that would help them get started, we got the free agents, Big Cass XL and Enzo. As we saw, they made an appearance in Ring of Honor, doing I guess a shoot work with the Briscoes, trading promo duels with them. I actually found it pretty entertaining. I think Enzo can really talk, and with Cass behind him, I think that's a pretty good duo. And if this, AEW Tuesday Night Dynamite, whatever they're going to call it, if it's going to be TV 14, I think that's the best place for Enzo, because he can cut his promos and not have to really worry about, overstepping boundaries and saying stuff he shouldn't have to be saying. But yeah, that brings them into the number 5 spot on the list. Number 4, another woman. I think you guys all expected this one. Sasha Banks, and I think this is probably one of the more likely ones to happen, but that's once she gets out of her WWE contract. because she's often forgot about, excuse me, when naming the best female athletes. But just a few years ago, that wasn't the case. In NXT, she showed that she's more than capable of putting on a clinic in that ring. Her matches against Bayley were amazing, and she would have the freedom to do that again in AEW. She was rumored to be upset with her position in WWE, and during Double or Nothing, she was live tweeting basically everything that was happening. And so she's watching close, and she obviously wants to get involved. I think she really just wants to get out of her WWE contract. So number 4 on the list was Sasha Banks. Speaking of wanting to get out of their WWE contracts, 3 and 2 are gonna play into that. But first of all, number 3, Lio Rush. Now I have him so high on this list because I myself am very high on Lio Rush. I feel like he is one of the best high flyers in the game today. I feel like he's a very underrated talker. And, he has a lot of heat with WWE right now. But I think the only reason he's not released and, already in AEW is because WWE is afraid of releasing people ahead of, AEW debuting on TNT. I mean, just look at Rhino. Rhino was offered double his salary to stay and not go to AEW. That's insane. Rhino of all people. So, they want to keep Lio Rush. And Lio Rush is getting heat faster than the Dudley Boys at ECW Heatwave. I mean, the fans are, still on Lio Rush's side, but backstage, I've been hearing a lot of bad stuff, not too good stuff, I should say, about Lio Rush. So, if he could go to AEW, I think that'd be a great pickup for them. And I think he could, like I said, fit into a possible junior heavyweight division, which brings us to number 2 on this list, which is going to be another tag team. It's the Revival, and I think a lot of you saw this one coming as well. They are also unhappy with the WWE, and they've been going back and forth with the Young Bucks for years, on being the elite, the whole FTR thing, fuck the Revival, or excuse me, Forever the Revival, or Free the Revival, and then it was FTRR, which was for Roman Reigns. And yeah, they asked for their release, and they really want to get to AEW, it seems like. And I think them versus the Young Bucks could honestly headline a pay-per-view. Like, that could headline, an event. That not even just a show, like an event, a pay-per-view that could headline. Because their tag team match would be insane. So, I personally think the Revival, if they come to AEW, that's going to be crazy. And the Young Bucks should be the first people on their list. But that brings us to number 1. Who else could it have been? I mean, come on. Who else could it have been, honestly? Phil Brooks, a.k.a. CM Punk on Twitter, a.k.a. the MMA commentator. He's a top target on everyone's list since he departed in 2014, and the rumors pop up every show about CM Punk returning, and honestly, I've stopped listening. It wasn't until AEW, when it really became a company, that I thought, CM Punk might just return. I mean, I understand this man is at peace with his wrestling career. He finds it, fun watching other people fight. But I know I don't speak for myself when I say this guy belongs in a wrestling ring. And, if it's just for one more time, then just one more time. But you can't end your career with a Royal Rumble staph infection. And you can't end your career with Z-Pack memes. And you definitely can't end your career doing run-ins for indie crowds with 25 people. So here's my proposition. CM Punk, Kenny Omega, All Out's going to be in Chicago. How do you turn that down? Please tell me in the comments, and tell me who you guys think should be joining the AEW roster ahead of their TNT debut. As always, I'm the Gaming Prophet, and I will talk to you all later.